Well, hi everybody. Welcome to a special edition of the King's Corner of the internet where I can say whatever I want because it's my show. I'm your host, RayJ'Nai King, and today we're talking about a white girl's Air Force Ones. I know you're probably like, girl, what are you talking about? Well, essentially today we're talking about the influences and context and giving you context about Gen Z's fashion aesthetics. Now, there's been a lot of talking. That's the nicest way I can say it. There's been a lot of talking. There's been a lot of rah-rah about Gen Z. And while I do understand some of the very valid critiques of my generation, sometimes you have to be a solid person and stand with your people. And right now, today, this moment, year our Lord, 2025, I'm standing with my people. We're trying our darndest, people. We're trying. We really are. We're trying. And every time we try, we get smacked with something new. You know, when we were growing up, Gen Z starts at 97. In the turn of the century, there was literally they literally thought the world was going to end because computers could not compute the year 2000. Like, people really thought, yeah, this is the end. Like, this is the end of it all. In 2010, or maybe 2012, in the 2010s, they thought the world was going to end again. We were in elementary school. I was in the 5th grade when this happened. They thought the world was going to end because the Mayan calendar stopped at 2012 or something like that. You know, and then you come to, from the turn of the century in 1999 to 2001 and 9/11, you know, those were pretty impactful to the pioneers of the Gen Zers. Like, you're 97 babies, you're 98. But those things really did impact Gen Zers. You come over to people on my side where I was born in 2003. We were ushered into the height of school shootings. I remember I was at school when Sandy Hook happened, and it wasn't one of those things. I can't really recount what that day looked like, but I do remember the fear that I felt. And I do remember the fear that my parents felt and that my teachers felt, administrators felt. And then even looking at Columbine, like, that was in 99, you know, Uvalde. That just happened a few years ago. And there was a school shooting in North Carolina this last month, as well as at Florida State University. In terms of the school shootings, like, it's getting ridiculous. Not like it hasn't already been ridiculous, but it's getting really ridiculous. And compared to other generations, school shootings were not popular. They were not as popular as they are now. 400 school shootings have taken place since Columbine in 1999. And a speech that Joe Biden made maybe a few years ago, he says that 370,000 students have been exposed to gun violence simply because of school shootings. Not because they live in neighborhoods that have a lot of gun violence, not because their mama and their daddy shoot guns, but because of school shootings. 61% of school shootings happen in the high school. Like, real formative years for people. Years where you're determining whether you want to go to college or what you're going to wear to prom and how you're going to, like, what car you're going to drive or if you're going to pass your driver's test. The people in those areas, they're worried about school shootings. And then, like, in 2014 alone, there were 332 shootings that happened in K-12 schools. Like, that's from kindergarteners who are like 5 years old to the 12th grade. People are like 18 years old. It's a large range of children that are being impacted by these things. And it seems that we just kind of bat our eyes and be like, well, guns don't hurt people. People hurt people. That's not the point of this. That's not the point of this. The point is Gen Z feels like we don't have enough time because again and again, we've been told that time is not on our side. Even thinking about the climate clock in New York City, like, the clock itself is called our deadline. Like, is that not dystopian to anybody? But it also takes away the desire for Gen Zers to age organically, right? Like, I'm only 21 years old and I feel like my life is behind me. While millennials at 21 didn't think that. At 21, you should never feel like your life is over. It doesn't matter what generation you come from. At 21, your life shouldn't feel like it is over. But because there's been so many things have happened and there's so little experience that we've had, it feels like adding age is just a waste of time, essentially, time that we do not have. So in the hopes of compensating for this lost time, we try to get things instantaneously, right? Instead of waiting for it to slowly accumulate, like what the people before us came with. You know what I mean? Like when you look at a Mary Kate Olsen bag, like her bags look like they've been through the ringer because they have been through the ringer. She has worn those bags out, like wore them from the top to the bottom. Like even Jane Birkin, the inspiration behind the Birkin bag, the reason she even looked for the designer to make her bag, Hermes, the reason she went there is because she needed a bag, an everyday bag. She wanted a bag that she could put all of her stuff in. If she had to go to work, she wanted a bag she could put all of her work stuff in. If she had to take the kids somewhere, she wanted to double it as a diaper bag. Like she wanted an everyday bag for an everyday girl. This bag has become an everyday bag, which means with that everyday bag comes everyday use, which also comes with age. But on TikTok, there was a trend where people were they were buying designer bags. They were buying bags from Gucci and buying Coach bags and even buying Birkins, and they would take their bags out on their driveway and they would run the bags over to give it a distressed look, to make it look like it had been through what a Mary Kate Olsen bag had been through. And people were not happy about it. Not only were they not happy because why are you running over a brand new bag that was $600 to $1,000, but they were not happy because Mary Kate Olsen's bag does not look like that because she threw it in ongoing traffic in New York City. It looks like that because she's worn it for 20 plus years. It looks like that because she has lived life with this bag for years. And when you look at the junk bags, like people were going to Amazon and going to Hobby Lobby and they were buying charms and stamps and buttons and all of these things in bulk and then buying a bag and then placing it on there strategically. They wanted it to look authentic, right? They wanted it to, but also it looked polished because all of this stuff is brand new, and also wanted it to look organic because there was a muse that they had that they aspired to. They aspired for their bag to look like those bags that we would see on models in the 90s who were just walking in New York City, wanted to make it look like a bag from a celebrity in LA as they were coming out of LAX. Like bags that had been through some things, bags that had seen different continents. You know what I mean? Like they wanted to get that look, but they didn't have the experience to back it. And a lot of people were mad about that. And they were like, Gen Z, they just don't understand the quality of living life. They don't understand that it is not just about give, give, give. It's not just about, I want this, so I'm going to get it immediately. You have to slowly let life happen. But when you're constantly living on the cusp of demise, letting life happen is not an option. There was a Stanford study, and they spoke about how Gen Zers are digital natives, which means we've never known life without the internet, which is true. And they say that the influence of being a digital native, it changes the speed, scale, and scope of our communication with the communities outside of our own, right? So with that, it comes with an appreciation for other cultures, like a New Yorker culture or a Californian culture, and even if we go abroad, like an Italian, a French, a Japanese, an Australian culture, like if we bring that appreciation for those things because we have access to those things, unlike other generations, but also it alters how we perceive our own generational timeline. When we're looking at people like Mary Kate Olsen, when you're able to get pictures of her in the 80s when she was a child, and then in the 2010s when she was an adult, like instantaneously, it makes you forget that there's a 30-year gap between when she was on Full House and now when she has this Birkin bag in New York City. You know what I mean? But it all goes back to, we feel like we are running out of time. But also, in running out of time, we can't make things worse, if that makes sense. Like, when we're thinking about fast fashion and we're thinking about consumerism, like everybody has a critique about consumerism. Like, it's harmful, it's wasteful, it's all of these things, but we still contribute to it because there's this desire to look like our Pinterest board. And while there's nothing wrong with that and we can do it sustainably, sustainability takes time. Sustainability don't happen overnight. Just because you drink out of a green straw doesn't mean that you're a sustainable person, right? The root is literally sustained. You know what I mean? Like, it's going to take time before we get to the pinnacle of sustainability. But the argument is that we're wasteful people. We don't appreciate the slow, and we don't appreciate letting things happen. And I mean, we can even look at how fast fashion is exacerbating, like, the climate crisis we're in. Uh, there was a study that I read, and it showed that fast fashion has increased global fashions by 400%, meaning that it's increased how many people have access to fashion items by 400%. And that increase has been responsible for 10% of the global carbon dioxide emissions. If we don't know, now we know. Emissions are not good for the environment. That's why you have to get an emissions test on your car. It has to make sure that you're not producing too much smog in the air so that we can keep our climate as good as it can get. You know what I mean? I found out that wool is used in a lot of fast fashion clothing, right? Wool is usually pretty sustainable, and it's also durable. But when it is woven in with other materials like cotton and polyester and nylon, it starts to deteriorate a little bit. And that's why, after about the third wear of a shirt that she got off Shein, it starts to maybe have a hole somewhere, or it doesn't fit the same way, or it starts to look a little old. It's because while wool is in there, a durable fabric, or a durable textile, it is being woven in with other textiles that are not as durable. But back on the topic of wool, it's responsible for greenhouse emissions, water pollution, and deforestation, right? And with wool being used in fast fashion, it's, like I said, blended in with other textiles, but these textiles are derived from fossil fuels, and they have a coating of chemicals on them that keep them bonded together. That, that increases its environmental impact on the production as well as the disposal of these garments. It's not just about how these people can sew it together in the factories, but it's also about what happens when you're done with your shirt, right? Usually when you're done, you'll take your shirt, and if it's too dingy, you'll just throw it away. Like, I know I have plenty of shirts, right, that after they run their course as being my pajama shirts, I'll throw them away, because who's going to want to grab my old shirt from 2018 that has a hole in the underarm and a hole on the shoulder? Who's going to grab that from the Goodwill? Probably nobody. And even if you give your clothes away, like donate your clothes to a Goodwill or something like that, if the clothes are too dingy, they'll just throw them away, because they know that their consumers are not going to buy it, and it's just going to stay on the floor. And like I was talking about the charms and the bulk buying of materials to make these junk bags, like, most people are getting this stuff from Amazon, because Amazon keeps things very accessible, like extremely accessible. You can get things in like an hour or two you can get certain things within an hour on Amazon, right? But Amazon increased its emissions by 18%. Most of it is dependent on freight shipping as well as their delivery vans. In terms of getting the material from whatever factory or whatever, getting it from the factory to the United States to another Amazon factory, the air shipping, right, to get it on the airplane, that generated 42% of emissions. And then to get your package from the factory in America to your crib, that increased by 180%. Like, while Amazon is really accessible and it makes life easier for us, and it takes less time that we also do not have, it's impacting the environment and it's impacting the earth, which we have to stay on. No matter how hard they try, we're not going to Mars, guys. We got to take care of the earth while we're here. You can see how having something as accessible as Amazon really does impact how we consume and how we take part in trends and how we take part in inspiration. Because it's not like other generations were not inspired by the generations that came before them. It was just about how quickly they had access to those influences. In the 70s, you probably couldn't go get an outfit that somebody wore in the 60s very easily. You know what I mean? But today, like, if you want a 60s house dress, you just gotta go to eBay and you can buy it and somebody will ship it to your crib and it'll be there in like 2 weeks. The way that we can navigate the implications of fast fashion on the climate crisis and on addressing the instant gratification that we receive from the accessibility of things like Amazon, biggest suggestion is to operate outside of capitalism and finding community with people outside of a phone. The biggest part about capitalism is that it encourages individualism and competition on a market level and on a personal level. And when we're in times of uncertainty like we are now, it's no fun to be in competition with the person next to you, because the person next to you is your safe haven. And not only are the people around you your safe haven, but your hobbies are your safe haven. Those are things that keep you centered in understanding and really truly knowing that you have enough time on this earth, right? So trying hobbies like knitting and baking, journaling, joining a fitness club, or even in terms of creating accessories and accessorizing your fashion, looking for flea markets in your local cities and in your local town, or if you have a Five Below or a Dollar General or something like that, something really cheap, something really accessible, you could try to go to different stores in your county, or if you can't get out of your state, try it in your county. But if you can, like, try to go to Five Belows outside of your state and try to go to flea markets outside of your state, where you're able to find unique charms and things that allow you to not only operate authentically, but also to show that authenticity in your fashion. And lastly, building community with people who aren't in your age group. And that can be familiar, that can be friend wise, like building relationships with people who you don't share generational cultures with are great, not only for their words of wisdom, but there's this trope that not only do old people have a bunch of stories, but they have a bunch of trinkets. Like, if you start to find community and maybe even tapping into grandparents or great grands and great uncles and aunts and things like that, they'll let you go through their house. I bet they have all types of charms all over the place, all types of antique items that could differentiate you from the rest of the fashion girlies and boys on TikTok and on Insta and on Pinterest, while we're still able to participate in these trends that show off these magnificent bags and charms and clothing. But we're also making sure that we're taking care of our community, taking care of our climate, and taking care of ourselves. And I'm going to leave on this note. Even though things look really scary right now and they seem very hard, we can do hard things. Generation Z can do hard things. We are capable. We have time. There's no rush. We will be great, and we're doing great. Thank you for staying. Thank you for chatting, and I hope you can share your opinions with me on another episode. I'll see you later. Mwah.